Welcome to E-Schoolhouse Presents The Voice of Experience. I'm Deborah, and today we've got for you someone who's taught outdoor education for 38 years. I would love to introduce you to my friend, Brenda Young. Brenda taught outdoor education, like I said, for 38 years for the Houston Independent School District. Her specialty was teaching science through outdoor education. And even though she's retired, she will still geek out with you about science in the outdoors. Brenda has developed several skills to excite and engage children, and she is going to share a few of those skills with us today. Welcome, Brenda.
Hey, good morning.
So happy that you're here. So let's start with, tell us why you chose to focus on outdoor education.
Well, back in the 70s when Earth Day came about, that was a huge impetus for me. And I was studying environmental science and not really knowing what I would do with it other than possibly going to work as an environmental consultant for, say, a power company or something like that. And I had two experiences with kids at a local nature center and at the Museum of Science in Springfield, Massachusetts, where I was going to school. And that is what turned me on to teaching with kids, because I had no idea that there were jobs like that. And that was, of course, being around the time of Earth Day. That was the time when outdoor ed was just coming into being. So after I graduated, I found a seasonal job with a private outdoor ed program, and that only lasted a semester. And then I found the opening with the Houston Independent School District's outdoor ed program. And at that time, there was just a few private programs had already started around the country, and Houston became one of, I believe, maybe the second public school run program at that time, and totally, supported by the tax base and things like that. And so I came to Texas from Massachusetts and never looked back.
Wow. So tell us about the ages of the children that you taught.
Well, our program served mainly fifth graders, sometimes fourth graders, sometimes sixth graders. Research at that time had shown that was the age group where kids were just starting to formulate their own opinions about nature, about religion, kind of forming some, independence of their parents' ideals and stuff like that. And so that is why most programs targeted that age group. They're still, they're young, they're impressionable, they are curious, and they just fit all the parameters that made teaching outdoor ed so easy and fun.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, so what were some ways that you would use when the kids would come to your program if you had children who are maybe just reluctant to do the activities?
That happened a lot. All of our kids were from Houston, and most of them were inner city children who had never even left their neighborhood.
Wow.
And let alone have an outdoor experience. Now, they may have gone to their local city parks and things like that, maybe to the Houston Zoo, but having a total immersion in a forest setting or a lake setting was very foreign to them. So a lot of them were really scared and apprehensive. Of course, they learn, they think everything they know about the forest comes from scary movies and things like that. So sometimes it was very, very challenging.
Wow.
To help acclimate them to that setting. And so just not throwing them in, but just immersing them into the outdoor setting and doing the fun things. Like we would turn our fishing class into a science class where they had to predict which kind of bait would catch the most fish and, hypothesize why and come to conclusions, by recording the data, et cetera. And so just getting them out there and doing things. And, one thing for most of the children, they were all in the same boat. Even though they were coming from different socioeconomic backgrounds, different schools that had different quality levels of programming, they were thrown into the same setting, and everybody, was on an equal level in terms of being in the outdoors in a place, that none of them were familiar with. Now, granted, some of our kids that came from higher socioeconomic settings, have had a lot of experiences via family camping, going to summer camp and things like that. And so, those kids were comfortable, but they were also really helpful in helping the other kids feel more at ease in the outdoor setting.
Well, that's so nice. That's so nice. So, what advice would you give to today's parents, and particularly today, parents are kind of forced into this environment now of working with their kids at home. What advice would you give to parents?
Well, in terms of trying to teach their children about things in the out of doors, I don't think parents should worry about naming things or having the correct scientific name for, say, the dragonfly that lands on a bush in their
Mhm.
yard or in the park. I think that the most important thing parents can do is hopefully enjoy it with their kids and just be relaxed and have that sense of awe and exploration that they can share with the kids. Just getting out there and, like, oh my gosh, did you see that fly by? You know, just be at ease. Of course, you still have to be safe. You still have to look out for fire ant mounds and be careful turning over logs and rocks, in case, you know, there's a snake underneath. But there's not much out there that will hurt you. And as long as as a parent, are observant and safety conscious, you're going to be okay. It's just get out and have fun with your kid. The most important thing I think that we can teach kids or anybody in an outdoor setting, particularly, is to be observant and to notice the world around them. And if a parent can do that with ease and curiosity, their kids are going to, catch the fever, so to speak.
I love that. I love that because parents are the primary teachers of their children. And you're right. If the parent is just naturally observant
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
talks out loud about it. And I love your
Yeah,
example of, oh, did you see
yeah,
that dragonfly? I mean, that's going
yeah,
to make the
yeah.
kids go, no, where was it? So I
Hmm.
love that.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
that.
And you don't have to have a lot of fancy tools. I mean, it's great if the family has a pair of binoculars. It's great if you have magnifying glasses, but keep it simple. In fact, I had shared an article from the Outdoor Education Center at Camp Olympia where my friend Brian was demonstrating how to do a simple log study, and he put it so well. He said, all you need is a jar with a lid and some holes and an old butter knife. And that's all you need, and a magnifying glass that would be helpful. But it's just, your eyes are your greatest tool,
Mhm.
and your ears, listening for things and just being observant.
I love that. And I love that you say you don't need a lot of tools because right now, especially, you can't get tools. So,
Right. That's
so that
right.
would that
That's
would be
right.
that's super important for parents
Hmm.
to know.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so parents who do not live in rural places,
Yeah.
how might they use some of these ideas?
Well, your yard is the best place to start. And even if you don't have a yard, if you live in an apartment complex, usually they have some greenery in
Mhm.
nearby around the apartment buildings, but your yard is the best place to start. One of the easiest activities that one can do is called the square foot study. And this could engage your child in a little bit of math. You just measure out a square foot, whether you lay 4 rulers out, or take a coat hanger and stretch it out so it kind of makes a square foot.
Mhm.
Uh, but measure out a square foot or a square yard area. I'd start out small, especially with younger kids, and put it down on the ground and have the kids observe it. What's crawling in it? How many different species of animals do they see? And they don't have to be able to name them. They could draw them. They can list them. Uh, if they draw them and they don't know what they are, then they can look it up later. Then, or look at the number of plants, the different types of plants that are growing in the yard in that square foot study. Check out the type of soil, dig down with a spoon and check out and see what the soil's like. And then take that square foot tool and go to another spot in the yard, maybe a spot that's in the shade versus the sun, or maybe a spot that's actually in a garden bed, and compare. Part of observation is making comparisons. And so they could compare it. You can have them make a chart of their findings, in the sunny area, in the shady area, in the garden area. And so there again, you're just reinforcing exploration and observation and collecting of data. And it's really easy.
That's brilliant.
So easy.
I love it because you just hit on so many different natural scientific processes.
Yes.
Observation, prediction, comparing,
Yeah.
and when you said dig with a spoon, I'm like, what kid's not going to want to do that?
Right,
So,
right.
awesome.
I think just basic questions that parents can ask their kids is, what do you think we'll find?
Yeah.
They're
I love
predicting.
it.
What did you find? What did you observe? Take the temperature, of the soil or the weather that day. Does it feel damp? Is it cold? Is it dry? Just different questions like that, just to get them to observe and answer their own questions. Another great statement to pose with kids is to get their imaginations going is, particularly if you find an unusual plant or an unusual insect, say, is if you were to be the one who discovered this plant, what would you name it?
Oh, I love that. And for the children who love to write, that's perfect.
It's an excellent writing prompt.
Yeah.
And then, of course, drawing. Drawing is so important. If parents could, I don't know, maybe they have books at home, or they can pull examples off the internet, but samples of illustrations that naturalists actually do when they're out in the field. That's what all good naturalists do. They have a notebook and they have a pen, pencil, watercolors, whatever, colored pencils, crayons. They draw what they see usually. And of course, nowadays people take pictures with their phones, but your naturalists draw things and then go back to their study or their lab and then proceed with further identification if they choose to. So there's just so much you can bring into one simple lesson, the math, the science, the art, the language arts, etc. So there's a lot that people can do.
Didn't I say when I was introducing this incredible person that she could talk all day about outdoor education? And I love this idea that she's coming up with. In fact, I don't know if you noticed, but I've been taking notes as she was just off the top of her head coming up with this activity.
Yeah.
So we're going to definitely have Brenda on more because I love her ideas, and I like science too, so we can kind of geek out together. But if you would like to have this activity written up, send a message below and we'll make sure that you get it. Also, I want to point out that Brenda has uploaded some activities into the E-Schoolhouse already in the outdoor education unit, so you can certainly get those there. So Brenda, we have to have you again. Are you okay with that?
I'd love to. I'd love to. This has been fun.
Okay. And I appreciate you so much being with us today.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed being with you too, and with our followers.